The carriage jerked sharply to a halt, making Yusumi's doll drop from her hands to land on her papa's worn bag of blacksmithing tools. "Easy, easy," she heard him call to the horses. The animals snorted powerfully, stamping their solid hooves. What was going on? They couldn't be at Xayar yet. Her papa said they wouldn't reach it for another half a day when they'd set out that morning, and the sun had barely moved since then. The horses stilled, and she caught the sound of someone moaning. Not her papa. His voice was much deeper, but this voice, there was something strange about it. Another sound was mixed in. A gurgle or an echo, maybe. She couldn't tell which, but it made her skin prickle uncomfortably. Standing on her seat, she leant across to look out of the carriage window, just in time to see her papa leap down from the driving seat and run over to a man sprawled on the ground a short distance from the horse's hooves. He paused, gazing around as if trying to figure out where the man had come from. She copied him. They weren't in a town, and she couldn't see any villages nearby either. Only an old windmill, crumbled and run down. She couldn't imagine anyone wanting to live there, or even hide for a game. The stones looked far too loose for anything like that. The weathered road was quiet too, and her papa hadn't bellowed out any greetings to other drivers in hours, so she doubted the man had been dropped off by another carriage. Yet there he was, as if he'd surfaced from the ground like a mole. Leaning further out, she saw that the man was writhing about, his food-stained tunic and patched hose covered in the dust his movements were clouding up from the earth. His skin was as pale as the sickly infant she'd seen in the last village they'd stayed at, and his eyes were completely grey, as though all the colour had been drained from them. They latched onto her, cold and intense, and hungry. Her breath caught nervously in her chest. Her papa, noticing the man's interest, turned to her. "It's all right, Yusumi. Get back inside. We'll be on our way soon." His attention went back to the man. "Get up," he demanded, lending him a hand all the same. "There's no way my horses could have even touched you. You're too far away. Any injuries you have were caused by flinging yourself down, not by them." The man hissed back at him, muttering words that didn't sound like any Yusumi knew. Perhaps he was from a distant land, like those in the tales the people from her home village whispered at night, the ones beyond Xylantria's wastelands. "Sorry, friend, but I only speak Xylantrian," her papa said, his eyes hardening, but the man was still looking past him at Yusumi. Her papa inched to the side, cutting off his line of sight. "You're far too interested in my daughter for my liking. Move, or I'll be forced to move you myself," he ordered. The man's only answer was to throw back his head and utter a high-pitched wailing. Yusumi clasped her hands over her ears in an attempt to cut off the terrible noise, but it was no good. It penetrated her mind, overtaking her every thought, and sent pain searing through her skull. "Papa, make it stop! Please make it stop!" she screamed. Reacting quickly, he smashed a fist hard into the man's lower jaw, the force tearing it away from the rest of his face. Only a single strip of flesh remained attached, leaving it dangling uselessly down his front. There was no blood, not even a drop. "What in Xylantria?" Her papa's voice faltered, and he threw a concerned look towards her. Then his eyes widened. "No!" She barely had time to register his panic before a pair of cold, damp hands grabbed her from behind and plucked her from the carriage. She struggled against them in every way she knew how, biting, kicking, clawing, hardly sparing a thought at the grotesque way her captor's skin split apart as they endeavoured to keep hold of her. From the corner of her eye she saw that the man with the broken jaw had crept up on her papa and grabbed him around the neck, preventing him from getting to her.